So, I want to make this video just because, I guess for context, next week is midterms, and funny enough, it's my last midterm, I guess, ever in life. This is my last semester of architecture school, and I think it's been interesting kind of reflecting on everything. Obviously architecture is a career, that I've sought out to do, and I do believe that I can have a successful career. But it's interesting, it feels like, and maybe this is just too much proximity to architecture, but I don't know. It's like every semester, the world gets a little bit bigger, and it feels a bit bigger than architecture school, at least in the way that architecture school is set up. I guess I have to think a little bit about what I mean. I guess the easiest way to kind of explain this is the kind of projects that we do, the project briefs that we get. They're often these large, very expansive, large square footage, multi-program project briefs that often tackle issues that in some ways are in a much bigger scope than some of the reasons that I got into architecture. Like the scope of some of these problems they're much bigger than my own, I guess, ambitions for why I chose a field like architecture. I think I got into architecture not because I wanted to design the biggest skyscraper or, just not to design something that looked really cool. I think I always looked to what architecture could be. I always wanted to look at the potential of it in terms of how it impacted people. Architecture, to me, I always thought about it as it being a reflection of what people wanted and what people need. And I think the need that I saw in my community growing up, and that being, Jackson, Mississippi, I saw this need for, updated housing. I saw this need to overcome, food deserts. I saw this need of, needing a car to get around. I saw this need for more services that increased quality of life. And I, in my mind, I guess when I first had this dream of being an architect in 7th grade, and also starting it at 17 and 18, my first year of undergrad, I just realizing that obviously architecture is connected to those things, but it isn't the sole contributor to, those solutions. Things are a lot more complex than just offering design solutions. But it's interesting. It's not even what I wanted to talk about in this video. But I've just been reflecting on what it means, at least for me, to be, a person, a human living in this world, the things that drive me, the things that I feel passionate about. And that's changed a bunch of different times. But I think I'm just reflecting on that a lot more just because I was kind of sitting in bed and I kind of couldn't get out of bed. I know I need to do work for midterms and stuff, but it just felt like the last thing that I wanted to do. And also just realizing too that, dealing with the kind of ramifications of, a relationship that I was in ending, and kind of, dealing with that, and wondering if like the right decision was made. And it's hard to understand if you're making the right decision in the moment. And, sometimes immediately after it can feel like it wasn't the right decision, but it's hard to know. And just dealing with the things that you lose, when you end a relationship like that. In my past relationship, it was a year and a half. And just kind of reflecting on that, the loss of that. And it feels like, I don't know, it feels like this past year, not even just all of 2025, but a year from like the start of last semester has been like a year of loss in a way. It started with like, my cousin, Cameron. I have this best friend, whose name I won't mention, but like, we've kind of like had some sort of falling out and just haven't spoken in a while. So that happened. And then also, my relationship ending. So just kind of dealing with those things in the midst of, the easiest semester I've ever had here at Berkeley, dealing with having like a job lined up already. It's like this back and forth of like how I should feel, how I actually feel. And yeah, it's a bit strange. Wait, let me make sure this is recording. If this is not recording, that's not gonna be good. Okay, we're good. This is recording. Okay. But yeah, I think I've just been kind of dealing with a lack of passion lately, a lack of like happiness, a lack of contentment, and just no real drive, I think, for school at the moment. I am excited, for my thesis and how it's progressing, but the actual work that needs to be done, for that and all my other classes, just not feeling like, the drive for it. And that could be, just me reflecting on all the things that I said before. Yeah, of course there are other things that are going well, This is the most consistent I've been with like making sure I'm eating better food, working out. My sleep schedule is like, well, not right now. It's like 10:03. I'm usually in bed by 9:40, 9:50. Try to be asleep by 10. I wake up at 6. I've been doing that, since mid-January. And it's been nice. Waking up at 6 every morning is very doable and very natural. Like I go to sleep. I take some magnesium. I wake up sometimes before my alarm at 6:05. I get up, hit the gym at 6:30. I'm out of there usually around, I want to say 8. If I'm doing extra stuff, 8:30. But I feel like that's been pretty good, and I'm excited to see that continue to progress. There was this weird thing that happened with my back. I was like benching like 210, and I felt like, I don't know, I think I strained my lower back or something. I don't know how you do that, but I don't know. I've been dealing with that for a few days. I think it'll go away on its own, but hopefully. But yeah, I just wanted to make this video just to say that like, I don't know. I couldn't get myself to do much of anything else. But the thought of like recording and talking and, putting my thoughts out there for some reason was like, in a way, kind of exciting. I think, this is a reason for why I'm doing, this documenting. It is a digital journal, and I do want it to be that. I think I just want to be honest about, how I'm feeling. And at the moment, I'm not doing so great. Most days, I don't know, I just be looking forward to like getting back in bed, going to sleep. I be trying to like drown, I don't know, quietness with like some YouTube video. Not even music. I haven't even listened to music in a while, which is kind of crazy, but I don't know. I think I just need to kind of find some like, I don't know what it is. I think it really is just like taking it a day at a time. I am kind of settled into a routine. I think spring break is not next week, but the week after next. And I think that'll be a good time for me to just kind of settle and, do some things for myself. I think in this next journey of life, post this relationship, because, this past relationship that I was in was a very important one to me. And in a lot of ways, I did structure, a lot of my life around it, even in the midst of grad school. But now, I am having to look at life, differently. Not that either are bad, it's just different. And just realizing that like, I need to get more comfortable with just, doing solo activities, being by myself, being okay with, whatever is happening in here. I think that'll be important for me, like moving forward. I think learning to spend time with self, learning to do things that are good for the mind, such as praying, meditating, learning to be still with self, reading. Those are all things that I would like to incorporate more of into my routine. Life is nothing but, a stacking of each day. And I want to live my life like I truly understand that. And you just can't have these days that you just waste and waste and waste and not take advantage of. Obviously, there can be times for rest, but, everything is cumulative, And I just want to be able to take advantage of that truth. An example being, reading 5 minutes a day, reading 10 minutes a day, reading 15 minutes a day, reading 1 minute a day. It's cumulative. It adds up. And I want to be able to reap the benefits of that. Not just for reading, but like that kind of principle for other things. I think too, learning to, pick up this mic, learning to turn on OBS and hit record, learning to hit record on my phone. I think those are all things that I wanted to get into the habit of doing. Because this also is important to me. I think what's really been on my mind is, I guess I've been feeling a bit of like impostor syndrome. I spent so much of my life like being an artist, a visual artist. And since pursuing architecture just about 6 years ago, that's taken a back seat. And my fear, is that I'll forget what it means to create art. I'll forget how to create art. I'll forget how to tell stories through my art. Not even just, making art. There's so much in this world that is art, the art of cooking, the art of fashion, the art of cleanliness, the art of how you carry yourself. I believe that everything that we do as human beings can be viewed as art. And it goes into this thing that I'm trying to make more of a principle in my life, like art as a praxis for life. And this word praxis, I got it from this book called Dark Space by Mario Gooden. He has this chapter called Space as Praxis. And this word praxis, in a sense, it's like theory plus action is in essence what praxis means. This idea of putting action behind your theories, your thoughts, your ideas, just being practical about how you think, manifesting your thoughts into the physical. That's kind of how I think about it. And when I think of art and when I think of my life, my ideas, how I think, I want everything in here to manifest organically, naturally, and beautifully in every area of my life. Fashion, to what I'm wearing, how I'm wearing it, how it looks. I want the art that I make to be a manifestation of how I think, to be a manifestation of my desires, my will, my thoughts, my ideas. Everything that I cook, that I put into my body. I believe also my art, my body is art. Working out is this process of sculpting and changing and modifying, your temple, on the interior and exterior. And your diet does the same thing. It's all art. It's, in a way, it's all things that we experience, things that are manifestations of how we think, of who we are. And obviously this is broken down into the different cultures and parts and sectors of the world, but it's all art. And that's how I would like to view my life. I would like to have a hand in everything that I participate in. And one new interest in particular that I've been kind of thinking about is like fashion. I've never been in a place financially to engage in fashion or to buy all the accessories or the shoes or the clothes, but it's funny, I watched this Casanat interview he's had with Luca Sabbat, and I've known about Luca Sabbat for a while. Not much about his fashion, but he was in Grown-ish. I always thought he was a cool character, a cool person. He has some locks. Cool person overall, and his personality, and I always thought he was a cool individual. So I clicked on the interview, and they were just talking about fashion and how Kai wants to he wants to break the boundaries of the perceptions that people have of him, and him being able to enter this new world, which fashion is a world in itself, and it's not a world that I've particularly delved into much. But it's cool seeing people venture into things that, they're newbies in, they're beginners. And they were just talking about the process of fashion and how people have paved their own worlds, created their own worlds for the kind of fashion that they do in their own, and paving their journeys. And Luca mentioned Yoji Yamamoto, how he's a savant at making everything that you can think of out of black, finding new ways to reinvent what it means to wear black clothing. And I was fascinated kind of by that idea. And I was looking into someone his clothing, his styles. I was watching some interviews, and I love when things like that can pique my interest, because it's hard for me to just retain information if I'm not passionate about it, if I don't find it interesting, if I don't see any way in which I can engage with it personally. But I just began to think, and I was having a conversation with one of my friends about just fashion in itself. And as of now, like, I have no like autonomy over, you know, what I wear. And to explain that, I just mean that like so much of what I wear is controlled by my ability to perform like labor. And I don't even determine the value of my labor. That's determined by society. So the society determines the value of my labor. Therefore, in that exchange, I am giving a certain amount of money. But depending on, you know, how much currency I receive, it kind of dictates at what level, because there's levels to fashion, and I say that to say that each level, let's say, has ascending prices, right? Whatever amount of currency I receive dictates, like, you know, the kind of fashion that I can wear. And maybe this is me just being pessimistic. Obviously, you know, you can thrift, you can make clothes, but I think that's kind of the point of what I want to get to. I want to have more autonomy over what it means to wear clothes, what it means to style clothes. And I'm just using fashion as an example because obviously, I think the way I'm thinking about this is, I'm thinking about this in every sector of my life. When I say art as praxis for life, like how I think about art, what I consider art, I consider fashion to be art. You know, the art of sleeping. I just want more autonomy over these things that have so much to do with my very being, these things that I engage with every day, and just wishing that I had more autonomy over these things. And it's funny, I don't know how I got here, but I think in the future, it'd be so cool to, like, you know, get a sewing machine, maybe take some classes, and figure out what it means to make my own clothes, what it means to engage in that kind of like very specific part of fashion. Yeah, I think just I've been having this kind of just imposter syndrome about what it means to be a creative, and just hoping that the way that I think about myself is true. Hoping that, you know, it isn't just a front. Like, I am actually like creative, and I have great ideas, and I can produce amazing things. And part of the interview, Kai was saying that, you know, he doesn't want to put himself in a box. Like, he wants to do everything from shoes to accessories to jackets to pants, you know. But Luca was saying that, like, you know, I get that. That's cool. I understand it. But it's better, you know, to pick one lane first. And to figure that out, right? Pick one lane, figure that out. And, you know, as you start to do that and get really good at that, people have trust in you to fulfill on your promise of making a great piece of clothing or fabric within this particular lane. They have this trust that's imbued in you to do this, so that when you do branch out, you know, they have trust in you, you have trust in yourself. So there's this mutual understanding that, you know, this branching out of this artist, I can trust it. There's safety there. And I think what's really interesting about that is that's kind of how I think about my life, or at least how my life is, like, how it's progressed. As I said before, like, I started out doing art. I was in third grade, and my my third grade teacher told me about this school called Power APAC. And she told me to apply, take a test. And I come to find out it's a performing arts school. And it's broken up into 4 different parts. So like dance, theater, music, and visual arts. So I did enjoy drawing, like as a third grader and as just like a kid. So naturally I chose that. And from 4th grade to 12th grade, I was in it. I watched myself grow. I watched myself grow as a storyteller, as an artist. I spent a lot of time, a lot of hours perfecting my technique. I spent a lot of time just trying to figure out what was the best direction and course of action for me. And eventually, I did get better. I started winning awards, started winning competitions. It was kind of nice. And at a certain point, by the end of it, I'd established myself as this kind of, amazing artist in my community. And I had a lot of respect. And it was great. And I just realizing that, like, I'm so glad that I had something early on to dedicate my time to and to, achieve a level of proficiency that is hard to achieve, And I'm eternally grateful for that because it taught me so much. It taught me so much. I think having art be similar to the fashion story, having art be my thing, my kind of trusted capability, it gave me trust and confidence to pursue other things, alongside it. I think I picked up skateboarding. I became quite good at that. That was more so in high school. I think also towards college, I started, working out, and I was kind of a beginner at that. I didn't do that in high school. I didn't do that growing up. So it was cool to kind of start that. And now I've reached a level of I feel like competency in that to where a lot of my friends here at Berkeley, they consider me some kind of trainer. They ask me have I trained people before or do I train people? And I just say no, but I think me as a person, I like to spend time with things. I like to really get to know and understand what I'm doing, the purpose of it, what's the outcome of it going to be. I like to really get into the nitty gritty just of what I'm focusing on. And I do feel like I've gotten to a level of proficiency of working out. I want to say intermediate proficiency. There's still a lot more to be learned. I have a lot more goals that I want to accomplish within this. That being, and this is for the future, some form of powerlifting inspired by people like Austin Perkins. He's in the 74 kg, which is close to my weight now, 165, benching 430 pounds, deadlifting 700 something, swatting 700 something. It's insane, insane numbers. So I'm just man, I don't know. When I see stuff like that, I get so inspired. I get pumped up, and I just think to myself that I don't know. There's no way I'm not also capable of that, I have to be. So, but that was more of a side note. But I say that to say that and maybe this will be the title of the video. I wanted to do this in a separate video, but I could talk about it now. Is this idea of just repetition, 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 repetition. I think to be creative, I think part of it is gift, part of it is talent, but I think ultimate creativity is repetition. Finding love for what's tedious, finding love in the mundane. I think that is the birthing place of creativity. I say that to say, and I'll give an example. When I think of the Wright brothers and all the experiments and flying experiments that they had to do, before they eventually were the first people to fly a plane. Had they not succeeded, we wouldn't be learning about them in history books. We wouldn't celebrate them as these intensely gifted, intelligent, and creative people had they not succeeded, had they not moved past every failure that they experience. And I feel like failure is only failure if you stop trying. Failure is just something that hasn't succeeded yet. And I feel like that is like the model that I've unconsciously been inhabiting within my mind with things that I want to try and things that I'm interested in. I never tell myself that I can't do it. It's more so just can I find the time for it? Because I know and understand the commitment that's needed to do this the right way. I understand that so well. And I think my art background is the reason that I understand it so well. Because I would spend hours upon hours and hours drawing, trying to get better, just doing drawings for the fun of it. I would draw my family, I'd draw everybody. I'd draw as much as I can. In every waking moment, I'd just be drawing and just realizing that repetition, having passion is, passion is important. That's the reason I did it. But outside of the passion, being able to do that, because drawing at times can be tedious, can be monotonous. But it's the result of it that breeds the creativity that people talk about, So I say all that to say that I need to not be so hard on myself. I need to realize that creativity isn't something that I am. It's something that I do. That's kind of a bar. Yeah. Ooh, creativity isn't something that I am. It's something that I do. Consistently, constantly, and perfectly. And I feel like if you can do something consistently, constantly, and imperfectly, and this is trying, to achieve a certain goal, I feel like you will land upon creativity. Because I feel like creativity is I guess I want to say, I think failure is it's like a hidden success. You're hoping to achieve a specific goal, but maybe you fall short. But that's not to say that you did anything wrong. It's just on that attempt, you didn't reach the goal. That's not to say on another one you can't. But creativity is dormant in every failure. You just have to keep trying till you can bring it out. Creativity is an action. It's a verb. I am creative. Not as this final absolute statement. I am creative as in I am active in this pursuit. I am unrelenting. There's this David Goggins quote that's really good. He says nothing wants to stand in front of anything that is unrelentless. I think that's how it goes. And it's a great quote because it's that kind of persistence. I think that's ultimately is what I need to focus myself on. Not just am I creative, but can I be consistent? Can I show up every single day? Can I show up for myself? If I'm feeling sad, if I'm feeling down, if I'm not feeling content, it's not like, let me find something that can make myself happy. What's the fix? Sometimes there isn't a fix. Sometimes it's showing up for yourself, making sure you get enough sleep, making sure you get enough to eat. And it may not solve the problem, but sometimes a problem isn't solved in a day. It's solved in days, stacked up on top of each other. Sometimes not always back to back, but there's still this stacking that happens. And I think that's the message that I want to share to anyone listening, to my future self listening, to anyone I know listening. But also I wanted to share this to myself. And it's funny, when I clicked record, I was having issues with OBS not picking up this mic. And I was like, I'm already not having a good day. And like, now it's not picked up the mic. And so I need to buy a new mic. But now I managed to fix it. You got to troubleshoot stuff on Google and stuff. But I'm feeling a lot better. Feeling a lot more motivated. Feeling a lot better to, tackle, what I have to do for my midterms. And yeah, I think that's a nice little wrap on this video. I'll try to get it out. Before the week is out, I think a video or 2 a week, that's a sweet spot. I think we can do something with that. And I think I'm starting to build the muscle. It's starting to feel much more comfortable. So yeah, if you're watching, thank you for watching. I appreciate you. And my name is Desmond Young. I hope that, I do go on to do all the things that I want to do. And yeah, thank you for watching. See you in the next one.